All right, guys, here we are. Old Erie Cemetery, Section 7. Up on the hill, one of the oldest sections in here, in fact. And we're at the vampire grave, or at least that's what legend tells. Mausoleum. What we do know, it was built in 1850. A woman named Margaret Brown owned it originally, yet neither her nor any of her family happened to reside in here. Instead, the Brown name was chiseled off, removed, only leaving this V, this very strange V. Now, although I've seen that before on different crypts, I haven't quite seen it that way, and that's very pronounced without the plaque on top. But what we know is that in the 1850s, somewhere along the line, 7 bodies were placed in here. And there are records for 5 of them. They're spotty at best, frankly. No death date on most. What we do know is that the majority died sometime between 1860 and 1880, we think. However, 2 bodies are unaccounted for. There's 0 records on who they are. We know that they're not infants because, of course, the caskets inside are full-sized. But instead, it's entirely possible, at least if you use your imagination, this is a crypt of vampires. And those 2 bodies, well, their names are a mystery for a reason. So I'm going to tell you 2 stories about this. Very, very interesting. My favorite one comes from the 1880s. Young boy has decided he's gonna. He tells his friends he's going to come in to the crypt. He's going to see the bodies. He's going to see if there's a vampire in there. So his friends say, "Yeah, okay, sure, we don't believe you." So the boy comes out in the middle of the night with a crowbar and a hammer and a chisel. And it takes him most of the night to break through this. Now at that time, the gate or the gate itself or the kind of chain link there was not there. Wasn't. So he broke in. Now, he ran into a problem. How could he prove to his friends that he broke into it? Well, picked an interesting way to solve that. He decided to steal a ring from one of the corpses. The boy claimed that it smelled absolutely horrible, just awful, putrid. He described it as a smell like dead mice to his friend. So he goes home with the ring, shows it to his friends, very, very excited. The next day he does. So he goes to rest. And he falls asleep in bed. His night terrors. Can't think. So he wakes up. His parents try to console him. Never did tell them exactly what happened. Only his friends knew. And then the following night, after showing all of his friends the ring again and explaining how creepy it was and that there were no vampires in it, he died in his sleep. They say that his body looked emaciated, pale, unhealthy, almost like it had been drained. Of course, there was no autopsy done. Oh, his name was Thomas, by the way. And interesting thing, the ring on his hand was missing. No one knows where the ring was after. No one knows who took it. But speculation up to this date is that he made a vampire angry. and that this vampire visited him in his sleep and took his ring back. Now, I'm not sure if that's the case. If you use your imagination, it definitely is. It's definitely a creepy building. Now, another very peculiar story comes from the 70s. A group of teenage boys are out here partying, drinking, and they're up here on this hill. Because, of course, you want to be next to the vampire grave while you're doing that, right? Well, so one of the older boys, gets dared to walk on the roof and knock, see if anybody's in there, take a look at it. Well, he does. He does walk on the roof. As his friends are up the hill, he walks all the way up to the crest, the point. And the next thing his friend knows, or his friends know, he's screaming and falls, gravely injuring himself. So they take him to the hospital. He goes to the hospital, and they're trying to bring him back to full health. He ultimately broke a number of bones in that. And then again, in the middle of the night, this boy has a horrible, horrible night terror. Wakes up screaming. By the time the nurses and doctors got there, the boy had actually jumped from a 4th-story window in the hospital to his death. When his friends were asked what may have caused it, they told the police that they had no idea. They didn't know what would have compelled him to jump to his death. We know it did happen, though. And I find it very interesting that he also had night terrors. Coincidence? I don't know. Synchronicity? Maybe. But very peculiar nonetheless. So that's the vampire grave here. Very, very spooky. I can't imagine being here at night, honestly. And I don't know if any of you saw this, but if you look at the wood door, now understand this wood door hasn't been, it's been sealed for 45, 50 years. And if you look in there, you can see all the scratch marks and names. See if we can get that in focus. Yeah. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. And actually, what's very interesting is the door isn't just sealed. It's not just locked. The handle's been removed, and it was actually bolted and nailed shut. Is that to keep people out or vampires in? Well, frankly, who's to say? But boy, do I like my imagination to run. Anyway, that's the vampire crypt of Old Erie Cemetery.